Major news this morning in a story that CNN broke overnight. For the first time, the Department of Justice is publicly acknowledging that it is looking into a specific aspect of the plot from high-level Donald Trump allies to overturn the 2020 election. This was a CNN exclusive. We learned that federal prosecutors are reviewing the fake Electoral College certifications from 2020 that falsely declared former President Trump the winner of 7 states that he lost. This is the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco.
On the issue you raised in terms of fraudulent elector certifications has been reported. We've received those referrals. Our prosecutors are looking at those, and I can't say anything more on ongoing investigations. But more broadly, look, the Attorney General has been very, very clear. We are going to follow the facts and the law wherever they lead to address conduct of any kind and at any level that is part of an assault on our democracy.
The fake Electoral College certifications were signed by Trump allies who falsely claimed to be the rightful electors in Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Some of the bogus certifications were actually sent to the National Archives in mid-December of 2020 by top state Republican Party officials. Evan Perez broke this story, and he is in Washington with more. Evan, tell us the latest here.
Well, Brianna, this is an important acknowledgement by the Justice Department because, as you know, they normally don't talk about what they're doing. They don't even tell us when they're looking at these types of allegations. So it was an important thing for the Deputy Attorney General to say that they're on the job and they're taking a look at these certifications. And certainly we heard from states yesterday that had sent some of these referrals, including Michigan and New Mexico, and they said that they were gratified because they believe that there could be some kind of federal crime. We don't know whether the Justice Department will ever get to that point, but one of the things that it has happened as a result of these false claims of vote fraud is that it's driving a lot of threats that are being made against election workers around the country. And it's making it hard to recruit people to do a job that is a very key part of our democracy. Lisa Monaco, the Deputy Attorney General, talked a little bit about those threats and the concerns they raise.
I'm concerned about the really disturbing nature of the threats that we've seen. They've been disturbingly aggressive and violent and personal. We set up an election threats task force, and you're seeing the fruits of some of that work. You saw a indictment just last week that is a result of that election threat task force. That case and that indictment and those charges were the first coming out of that task force, but they will not be the last.
And Brianna, John, you know, you heard her there. It won't be the last, and that's one of the things that I think you hear from Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, is that this is seen as a broader effort to try to defend the American democracy, trying to protect people against these types of threats.
All right, Evan, big developments. Thank you so much for breaking that story, Evan Perez.
Joining us now, former FBI Deputy Assistant Director Peter Strzok. His book, Compromised: Counterintelligence as a Threat of Donald J. Trump, is now out in paperback. Peter, thanks for being with us. Those words from the Deputy Director, the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco, acknowledging an investigation into the fake certifications, carefully chosen words. How do you read it?
Well, absolutely. You know, in my experience, anytime the Department of Justice or the FBI makes a comment on ongoing investigation, particularly at a high level, those words are very carefully chosen and they're very carefully scrutinized. So certainly when you hear them coming from the Deputy Attorney General herself, I have no doubt that the intention and the plan to do that was probably went up to the Attorney General and certainly the Office of the Attorney General. And it's careful. It's important when you're looking at a statement like that to read it very carefully. And there are two things I see in there. One is that prosecutors are looking at it, and what that means to me is that they're examining the allegations, they're looking at federal law, they're seeing what the elements of the particular crimes that might be involved are and where the evidence falls and doesn't fall. And the second thing, the last point, is that, you know, she says that she can't comment anymore on ongoing investigations. Well, that means exactly what it says. That means that right now there are investigations, plural, that are open and ongoing within the Department of Justice about this matter. So that's a very significant event. And to me, it indicates just how high the level of investigation is now going within DOJ.
Even if this turns out, Peter, that it wasn't illegal, but clearly was exploiting a vulnerability, what is the benefit of having this investigation?
Well, I think anytime you have an investigation, one, certainly this is very different from the January 6th committee. These are investigations of violations of criminal law. So to get there, you have to meet a certain threshold to be able to open a case. And then certainly when you open a case, you begin as an investigator, certainly, to develop a lot of information. And so whether or not you reach the threshold in any one particular event to charge a crime, you're gathering a great deal of information about what was going on. And certainly these can't be viewed in isolation. This isn't just a case in one state or in a different state or in a third or fourth or sixth or seventh state. You have to look at these, and I'm certain DOJ and FBI will, in the context of a broad pattern of activity. And why that's important is, were these coordinated? Were these planned in advance? And if so, who did that, and what was their intention behind doing so?
One thing to make clear here is the reporting from CNN and others is that Rudi Giuliani was key in this effort, publicly so, to submit these fake electors. Boris Epshteyn, who was on the other day on TV talking about this, publicly part of this. So this really does get to the higher levels of Trump's political world, the acknowledgement that there is an investigation into them, significant in and of itself. But, Peter, there's something else that's interesting about this that you point out. The way this has come to light and the route this has taken is a little bit unusual. How so?
Well, when you look at the source documents, these were found via Freedom of Information Act by a nonprofit organization who posted the material back in March of last year. So the question is, that was 11 months ago. And the question in my mind is, what is it that has occurred, between then and now? The underlying documents, the underlying events were certainly not only public, but before they were released, they had to be processed through a Freedom of Information Act. So the government was aware of them prior to even turning them over to this nonprofit organization. So the question in my mind is, what's been going on? Now, it could be a couple of things. One, just those false slates of electors wasn't enough to open a case, and there's other information that in the totality has caused a case or cases to be open. The other thing might be simply that there was so much going on at the time that it's taken this long for the government to get its arms around just all of the potential illegal activity that was going on. And only through efforts of folks like the January 6th committee, only through the efforts of the ongoing investigations within the Department of Justice did the broad scope of just everything that was going on come to light. And then finally, last point to your mention of Giuliani, there's an ongoing investigation of him in the Southern District of New York. And it may well be that in the course of that investigation and all his links to Ukraine and all his electronic media that was seized, that additional legal process was obtained to get records out of his email, out of his devices, and that there's information in that material that led to these cases. But, that's speculation. But the point is that Giuliani is absolutely key to a lot of this. He's got a lot of legal issues on a variety of fronts. And as you said, he was the president's attorney, and it doesn't get much closer than that.
Hadn't thought about that, about the investigations possibly being connected. A lot to chew on there. Peter Strzok, thank you so much for being with us. Peter's book, Compromised, out in paperback as of today.